Check it out. I've done a few of those over the past week. Took the kids camping last weekend. It was a great time, but about half of us got sick. So, I did a few of those. It's bronchitis, but the good news is, up until now, I'm not pregnant. So, so it's regular sick, not COVID sick. I was going to wait until I cleared up entirely and my voice cleared up before I made this video. But then I realized that this is actually a really good example of why being a real estate photography company and not a business is important. So let's imagine that this had been COVID and it had hit a lot harder, me being down for a few weeks instead of a few days. If you're the only guy that your business has ever known, what then? Does it just come grinding to a halt? With me, I can give a call to those clients on the schedule and let them know it won't be me, but it'll be one of my guys who'll be showing up shooting their listing this week. So hey, we made it to the end of the series, and I have a few thoughts about some of the topics we covered, and also wanted to respond to some of the questions and comments I've been getting along the way. Mostly this has to do with clients, because the other stuff is pretty straightforward. I had a question, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up, which was a really good question. This question comes from Jonathan Schloss. This is a great question. It's from the video on how to get clients. He says, hey, what's a good way to approach a client when they already have an existing photographer, yet their work is not on par? This is something, Jonathan, that I probably should have brought up during the client video because it's such a great question. We've all been there. My MO is I don't poach clients from other photographers, even if they're crap photographers. And really, it's just kind of a karma kind of concept. You don't want somebody doing that to you, so you don't do it to them. However, there's a big however with this. I also don't believe that once you piss on some fence post 18 years ago, it's yours forever. You have to work to keep that. Okay, so having said that, and to answer your question, it's okay to talk to those people. It's okay to point them at your work. Just don't try to recruit them, because what will happen if that other photographer's work is not that good and yours is good is they might come to that decision themselves, and they're going to say, hey, why am I using this guy when this other guy, is obviously doing some better work? But, never talk bad about other photographers. I actually do the opposite, and in fact, I had a very similar situation happen just recently where I met a young lady outside of a listing. She was representing the buyers, and she was coming to see the home right as I had finished shooting it. And her firm is one, introduced ourselves. She gave me her card. Her firm is one that I hadn't really heard of even. It's a smaller one in the area. And I said, I don't think we've met, and I said, the firm's name is Sterling. I said, Sterling, I don't know if I've ever even heard of them, and she says, yeah, we're small and we have about 15 agents and this and that. And she says, well, the reason you never heard of us is because we use this other guy to do all of our photography, Christian, somebody or another. And instead of me saying, hey, take a look at my stuff, look, it's way better than Christian's, this and that, don't do that. Just say, yeah, that's pretty sweet for Christian, he's got a good gig, can I get your card? And she gave me her card, and we exchanged social media and stuff. And I'm not trying to knock no pork chop off of Christian's plate, but if Christian sucks at what he does, and this young lady looks at my photography and likes it better than his, then it's fair game, right? So you see how I did that? I didn't tear down Christian. He's probably a great guy. Even if his photography sucks, which I've since looked at it, it doesn't. He's a pretty good real estate photographer. You don't tear the guy down. So I hope that answers your question. Just be careful. Don't do to somebody else what you wouldn't want done to you. Having said that, always protect your business by doing a great job for your clients, and you don't have to worry about that to begin with. One more question that I wanted to address is from Daniel Tisdale. And this was on one of the first videos in the series about making your real estate photography business explode in 2022. He says, excellent video and appreciate you sharing all this information. I was curious if you may be planning any videos discussing strategies around the process of transitioning from, say, let's say a typical 9-to-5 career to going full-time in this field for some aspiring real estate photographers, videographers, would definitely be interested. So thank you, Daniel. I've said from the get-go that this was kind of aimed more toward the journeyman real estate photographer, somebody who's already got your legs underneath you. What you're asking about transitioning from a 9-to-5 into a real estate photography career, I don't plan to do that. And the reason I don't plan to do that is because the way that I got here is not typical. So I was a real estate agent first for many years and got into photography really because I was a real estate agent, learning how to shoot interiors on my own listings. And that's what got me into photography to begin with. So by the time I decided to make that jump and take it seriously, I already knew all the people. And so that's the biggest struggle that somebody going from a 9-to-5 job to shooting real estate professionally is going to have, is going to be making those relationships, and getting those first clients. I already had that, because I was already in that world for a few years. And so for that reason, I probably am not going to make a video about that, because I just don't believe that I am qualified to speak on that, if that makes sense. Here's a good one. This is on the video where I was showing the flash power trick. It's the second video in the series. I will leave a link to it there. Rick Mendonca, I hope I pronounced your name right, bud, says, I have an A7 III Godox 200, which is the same one that I use, as well as a 400. I have a 400 too. I haven't used it in a while, actually, since I got the 200. That's the only one I use, pretty much. 17-28 Tamron and a 28-75 Tamron. Great two lenses to have. Gives you a good range. What tips do you have for me, since my body's ISO isn't as robust as the A1? Okay, so the A7 III, I have an A7 III too. It's actually right back there. I use it. I use it to zoom every now and then. A7 III is a fantastic camera. I mean, it really is, and I think you're selling it a little bit short if you don't think that the ISO is as robust as the A1. Maybe it's not, but the difference is so fine. The A7 III is a really good camera for real estate photography. I would still be using that A7 III if I had not gotten into shooting luxury property and shooting for builders. And the only reason I choose the higher resolution cameras, so the A7R4 and then the A1 for that type of work, is because they're doing more robust marketing. So they're printing this. I mean, I've seen signs, with my work on it, and and I've walked into these corporate offices with with my photography on the walls, and it's actually pretty humbling the first time that it happens. But could you do that with an A7 III? Sure. Could it be done better with a higher resolution body? I think so, and that's the only reason. But typically with higher resolution bodies, especially the A7R4, but even the A1, you take a little bit of a penalty because those photo sites aren't quite as big on the sensor in ISO performance and low lightability. Everything that I said with that flash trick can be done with the A7 III, with the exception you only have a 1/250th of a second flash sync speed maximum on it, so you're not going to be able to, to make your flash quite as strong. But I don't think I would use the A7 III happily, shooting interiors up to at least 1,000 ISO, and I think it'll be fine. I mean, it's a really clean camera. It's a good camera you have. I wouldn't do anything differently. And really, the only other thing that I wanted to bring up is when I look at cheap HDR farmed out photography versus really nice interiors photography, there are some things that stand out. One of them that really stands out to me is the really high-end interiors photographers, and this is even for real estate, don't shoot as wide as the bottom of the barrel HDR photographers, right? So the HDR photographers, and I get comments like this every now and then too, especially on my videos. You know, we're all, my typical interiors video with the A7S3, I use the 18mm Zeiss Batis on full frame, so it's an 18mm perspective. And there are a couple of reasons I use that lens. It's a really nice light lens. It's sharp. It's, you know, and all this other stuff. But I think 18mm is a great perspective for a lot of real estate photography. What you'll find is, you know, beginners want to get everything in the frame. You know, instead of being creative and instead of finding those moments within a house where it's like, you know, this is a really cool perspective, how I can see this in the background, this in the foreground, and kind of going through this doorway. And, you know, instead of finding that, they'll back themselves into a corner, crank it to, you know, 12mm and go for it, right? And it's going to look awful. You're going to have like 3 miles of ceiling, 3 miles of flooring, and, you know, all the counters going to be stretched, you know, coming to you and such. So try to resist shooting everything so wide. And I would even challenge everybody to have a different lens that you shoot details with, right, that's tighter. So let's say your main lens is a 16-35. Get a 50, right? Even an 85 if you're really brave. And see if you can take wide shots with a 50. That means backing up, right? It means backing up. It means finding angles. See if you can do that, you know, because when you do, it's going to give you a different and, in my opinion, more advanced perspective than the HDR photography mill places. And if we're talking about making your business explode and we're talking about setting yourself apart from mediocre average photography, and that's one of the ways that your business is going to explode, that's one of the things I think that you can do today to get that to happen, is really focus on your framing. And when you focus on your framing, you're going to find that your shots get a little bit tighter. Because when you're just showing everything, there's no framing really involved there, is it? You're just pointing. Okay, so to recap quickly, because I don't feel good, my bronchitis is still going. Travel light. So, you know, have everything on your body that you're going to be using to shoot the interiors. Create those habits of efficiency, and you'll make your own. You know, I have some of mine, and maybe I'll show them here, like I showed you the flash power thing, right? So I've got little things like that all over the place that just, I didn't see that anywhere. I just kind of developed it, you know. I just kind of thought about it, and, you know, and as you get to do this more and more, you'll find those things of your own that you start doing, and you start realizing that it makes a difference, you know, in your workflow. So make your own habits, travel light, try to consolidate your gear, be a company. That means looking, walking, talking like a company, you know, branded clothing, branded vehicles. Do not deliver with Dropbox. You know, I have a software that is specifically meant for real estate photography that I do all my delivery through. It has a paywall on it. You know, it just looks like a company sending you something, not a dude. And then never forget that your business is only as healthy as the sales. And so always be looking for new clients. Always be looking for new clients. Always be ready to take referrals and do those referrals well. I actually have a couple I have to follow up with right now. Because that's the healthier business, you know, and that's what's going to keep it growing. That is the key, really, to all of this. Get out in front of clients, show them what you do, and I guarantee you'll get them, you know. And the thing is, I live in a very populated area. You know, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. There are millions and millions of people here. If I can walk in to a real estate office that I've never been in before and make a pitch and get clients out of it with as many other photographers are around here all vying for, you know, everybody's business, that means you can wherever you are. You know, it really does. So I hope you got something from this video, from this series. Like I said, I meant for this to be longer, but, you know, I'm still getting over this bronchitis. I am going to be on a roll in 2022. I'm going to have a lot of videos coming at you really quickly. So please leave me some comments down below. Let me know if you have some ideas. So a couple things I've been kicking around lately is I want to speak specifically about debt as it pertains to acquisition of gear and tools and things like that. That's a whole video. And I want to get into some more gear. I haven't done gear in a while, so might do a tour of the editing setup around here. Might do a tour of the van that I've got. Might do one about lenses. I've got a bazillion of them. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you.